Yes.
Yes, and then we discovered that the schedule kind of clashes, not clashes, but it's supposed to be August 4 to 19, and the 19th of August is when the World Championships will begin. So we wanted to find out from your perspective as a World Athletics Council member, what this means for the African Games, because I remember moderating a session with National Olympic Committee presidents during the COVID era. You were one of the speakers, and I remember we were looking at how we can make the African Games bigger than it already is, and that was one of the issues. So, are you using a laptop right now?
Yes, I'm using a laptop. Yes.
Could you just dip the screen a little bit so that you're
closer?
Yeah, so it's like there's the headroom. Okay. Yes, so just
I can maybe change an earlier discussion. I can also, let me see if I can get a background.
Oh no, it's okay. The background is fine.
It's okay that way?
Just
okay.
move your screen towards you like this. So like this a little bit.
Okay.
There you go. Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
So my question is, do you think that the current schedule for the African Games for next year has the potential of denying the competition of top athletes because of where the World Championship will be? What are your thoughts on the dates for the African Championships for next year?
I've looked at the two programs. I know the Africa Games starts on 4th to 19th, and mostly athletics is towards the end. Normally, athletics is the last event for the games. So really, it's unfortunate that we have had the two kind of close, they're not overlapping, but very close schedules for the athletes. But I'm pretty sure that some athletes in some events, especially the sprints, those who can finish their events earlier than maybe 12 or so will be able to participate in both championships. Of course, it's going to disadvantage athletes for middle distance and long. So those will not be able to participate in both events. That means that we're going to have a certain category of athletes in many countries that focus more on the world championships. They're going to use a second grade athletes, not second grade in terms of poor performance, but those who are not able to make it to world championship will be able to go for Africa Games.
We have spoken in the past a lot about how to make the Africa Games attractive, and considering that it is an Olympic qualifying event and it's also the World Championships, what does that mean for where the competition could potentially head to in terms of attraction? Are we doing ourselves a favor with the scheduling? What would be the proposals that you would make in terms of how we can get the best out of this competition?
I think we would like as Africa to have the best of Africa in Africa Games. That is principally that is the ideal. But of course, the realities on the ground may not be the case. Athletes look at world championships as a way to, especially the top athletes, there's prize money that they have to go for. Many of these athletes sign contracts. They have to participate in the world championships. So we may not deny that as Africa. And I think it comes back to the scheduling, because we scheduled this event after the World Championships were already scheduled. We are kind of like trying to fit into other people's programs. So I think as Africa, if we're going to have our events where we want our athletes to participate, we have to schedule these events way in advance. Then others will be able to schedule theirs according to ours, because that way, as long as we continue to be the last in scheduling, we're going to disadvantage athletes, the hurdles, and maybe field events that come slightly earlier. As I said, they have an opportunity to double the two events. But for most of the athletes, they're going to opt for world championships. And this, we cannot be able to blame the World Athletics to adjust, because these dates were set way in advance. Even as now, as we talk now, they're already looking at to a program for 2025, 2027, and we are still here. So that's really the challenge we have as Africa.
At the moment, there is also the issue of infrastructure challenge, of course, but that's not what we are discussing now. But would you recommend, for example, that we schedule the African Games maybe after the World Championships, and maybe shift it to the month of October, maybe? Do you think that is feasible, or you think that could also provide a unique challenge where at least we begin to say, nah, after the World Championship, I'm tired and I've already qualified for the Olympic Games, so why should I go to the African Games? What kind of unique proposals do you think we can try to adapt here, given that we have our backs to the wall?
Yeah, I think there's one thing that we also need to look at. When the host, for example, Ghana, came up with that date, we also know that they look at the weather conditions. So that will be another challenge that we need to look at. Of course, it would have been to have these games after the World Championships. Most likely, if we had it in September, maybe not October, September, it will be good. But we don't know if that will also be conducive for the hosts to have this event, maybe when there's too much rain or when there's too much, we're in the tropics, you never know. If you're in the cold air, it's very possible to organize events any time of the day. But if you're in the tropics, it may be very difficult. So I think that could be one of the challenges. I think going forward, we need to schedule our events way in advance. For example, games are coming after every 4 years. We have an opportunity for the next games to be communicated way 4 years in advance, not 2 years, not very close, because that way then we give chance for other people to try to fit into our program. Yeah. But otherwise, I think it's upon us as Africans to make sure Africa compete in Africa. Apart from having the Africa Games after every 4 years, when do they have opportunity to compete? They don't have. We don't have so many diamond leagues, don't have so many events that can attract them within our continent. So this is one of the opportunities for us as Africans to see our athletes at our games. So we need to work really together to see that they are there, but it should not be done in a way that we want to push them to run event this week and next week in another event. It's going to be very difficult.
Yeah. Indeed. One last question for you. You kind of touched on it, and so talking legacy here in terms of, because we've been hosting the African Games for a long time, and yet we've not even had the opportunity to host, say, an event like even the Commonwealth Games, let alone to talk about the Olympic Games. Do you think that is where we should begin to look at that? If a country can host the African Games with all 55 countries attending, potentially it should leave a legacy where you can start to look at even hosting perhaps the World Championships, or not the World Championships per se, but like multi-sport event like the Commonwealth Games, for example.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the legacy is where we are having challenges. And I was in Brazzaville, the last Africa Games. I was in Brazzaville and I saw a very nice infrastructure in place. And you wish to be there. If you're an athlete, you wish to be there competing there. You may not be able to look at, say, Commonwealth Games, which is around 27 or so members of Africa, but you can look at one individual sport. For example, Ghana could be able to host a Diamond League. These are one-day events that we can start off with. And I think we need to have events as a legacy to ensure that our athletes, our elite athletes, can still come back, even if they missed out on the Africa Games. They say as a part of legacy, Accra is hosting a Diamond League or Golden Tour or anything of that kind. People still come and participate. And the more events we have in Africa for our athletes, the more they will start to trust our events. Because as of now, it's very easy. If you're given a chance, athletes will choose to go to run in Europe, where they think the organization, the quality is very high. Unless we have many events in Africa, that's when we cannot be able to build the capacity of our technical officials, our events, and people will start to trust our events. So there's the issue of trying to see after this, so what? And we should not have Africa Games after that we forget about it. No, we should have Africa Games. Are there other events? If we cannot do games, multi-sport games, are there individual sports, basketball, volleyball, athletics, whichever, that is going to keep the fire burning in Ghana, for example. People like to see or associate themselves with, after hosting this event, it brought us a continental tour, bronze level. It costs around $125,000. Can the country be able to sustain that? Slowly it grows up. And it's from there that when you organize, out of the 24 right now, we have 24 games, sports court, 24 of them that are going to take place. Can out of those 24, as a legacy, can we have around 5 of them, even 3, to have an annual or biannual event happening in Ghana? I think these are questions that we need to ask as the host countries. Can we have this legacy? It's not all about infrastructure. I think the infrastructure becomes real when there's functionality. People are using it. They're using them for organizing continental championship. It could be tournaments for multi-sport, for individual sports, but at least there's something happening that's international in that country.
I agree with you 100%. Brilliant points made there. Just one last one, but this is directly on the African Games. The World Championships 2023 Budapest, I've seen the qualifying max out, yes, and everybody is crying. What are your thoughts on that? Because those seem like really, really high standards.
Yes, there are 2 ways of qualification. And now that's where it brings issues on us, the Africans. That's why we need to put our house together. There's qualification 50% by entry standard, then 50% by ranking. Entry standard it means you must be in a very competitive event to be able to qualify. Now, to qualify by ranking means you must be in very many events that earn points. So that's where our challenge is, because we need to have many events that are accessible to our athletes. Events in Africa where an athlete who doesn't have a manager must go and compete in. So those events are known, and those events earn points. So if our athletes cannot go for those events, they will not earn the points. They cannot qualify by ranking. So those are the 2 ways so most of the African athletes have to qualify by standard. What does that mean? It means every event that we organize must be quality in terms of competitors. We may have to have invitational athletes to come, or we take them to Europe, which is very expensive. We need to have many athletes to qualify. And I believe for some events, I think we have 2 weeks of Africa Games not be enough for them to qualify. It will be beyond the qualifying period. That's another challenge. That means also that if we wanted, we'll have Africa Games earlier. Because if we have it earlier, within 2 weeks, it gives chance for many of them to go and say, oh, let me go and qualify in Accra. But you cannot qualify in Accra, it's too close. So it's not easy, and it's going to continue. It's going to continue, this trend is going to continue, it's not going to come down. It means we have to up our game, organize a proper event. Every member federation must have not less than 3 international events in their country. Within the region, we need to work together as a region. We must have events. So Accra, from Ghana, you go to Nigeria, you go to Togo. These are neighboring countries. But then you ask yourself, I think going from Nigeria to Togo, you may need to fly. And how much do you pay? Pay $500.
Yeah.
You understand? For me to go from Uganda to Nairobi, Kenya, which is a neighboring country, if I go by air, I pay around $500, $600. If I'm in Europe, if I'm from Germany to France, I pay maybe $200 or less. So these are realities for us as Africa. We need to think. We need to think. That's why I'm saying, even when we organize Africa Games, the AU, the organizers, we must go beyond this. We must help our sports to grow. Our confederations must grow. They must have many events in Africa where our athletes can go and compete. Every region, we have 6 regions for athletics in Africa.
Yeah.
Every region must have at least invitational events where our athletes can compete affordably. Some of them can travel by road. For those federations that cannot afford, they can travel by road. It also means we must have the proper infrastructure in terms of the stadium. There are some stadiums which are there, they don't have a timing equipment. You understand? So it makes it very difficult. You must compete where the quality of management of that event is very good. You will get the stars coming. When the stars are there, your athletes qualify.
Yeah.
So that is a challenge.
Then you basically summed it up. Everything is connected. all of it is connected. The infrastructure must lead to more competitions, and the competitions must lead to better scheduling. That scheduling can help our athletes accumulate points, and then it can make it attractive for them to want to say, this is an opportunity for me to qualify. But everything has to work together. And I think that's the message I have picked up from you. And it's a brilliant one because the lack of competition part is one thing that's really worrying a lot of athletes here in Ghana in particular, because to even enter a qualifying event, you have to fly them to Europe or fly them to America, which is much more expensive. Whereas if we had, like you said, if we had all of these inter-regional competitions here, it would be so much easier to get these athletes here and give them even more events, as many events as possible to try and make the mark. But, you know, maybe in a year, some of our athletes have maybe 1 or 2 events to try and qualify. That's not enough, you know, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's the challenge. That's a challenge. We need to keep our athletes motivated. How do we motivate the athletes? They need competitions, and the competition must be quality competitions. And they must trust that if I go to this event, I'm not going to have so many false start, or maybe because the timer did not, you know, many issues at times they arise. So we have the capacity as Africa. The more we have events in Africa, the more we build the capacity of our teams. And the more our athletes start trusting our events, because now even if an athlete has money to go to Europe, doesn't still need to run in Africa. He's already thinking about the way this event is going to be organized, the way I'll be received there. You know, there are many small things that we need to put together to make our athletes appreciate running in Africa.
I agree with you 100%. I've taken enough of your time. Thank you so much, Madam Beatrice. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And hopefully before the African Games, even here at Joy Sports, what we're trying to do is actually liaise with the local organizing committee and organize a big international meet to test the facilities before the African Games itself. So that invitational would be a big one. Like, I feel like it would be a big deal to try and get so many athletes to come to Ghana, test the facilities, run here 1-day meet or 2-day meet or whatever it is. And then from then on, after the games, we can then try to, like you said, try to make it an annual thing. And then hopefully we can get a Diamond League status, and it would become big because the running track, the stadium that is going to be used for the facility, it's just like Oregon. It's on the University of Ghana campus. It's a university stadium. So, you know, so already there is guaranteed audience there. You always have students that will get interested in the sport. So in a way, it also grows interest in the sport. And then going forward, that legacy, then we can begin to discuss legacy and say maybe this stadium at the University of Ghana after the African Games has got many more people interested in the sport. And then, you know, so I think hopefully once they finish the facilities on time, and there's enough time to do that before the games, we will push it from our side. We will try and push for something like that. So when it gets there, I'll be reaching out for some guidelines and stuff like that.
I'll be very happy because as we talk now, there's an opportunity if you have that in plan for this event really to be one of the ranking events. And that means the Athletics Federation of Ghana has to apply. They have to apply in advance, that is listed as one of the qualifying events, so that athletes can earn points, as well as they can also use this for as qualification for Budapest. So that will be really great.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So take care of yourself. And
you too.
You are good friends with Alan, right? Daring Chayine.
Yes.
We were in Oregon together. We shared a room for 10 days.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Well, I'll send him your regards. Yeah.
Yes. He's my very good friend. So we've been traveling together to cover events a lot. So you know, and I was a big fan of Halima. Unfortunately,
yes, Nakai. Yes,
didn't do well in Oregon. I don't know what happened to her, but I remember I was in Doha with her and I fell in love with her because she's so small, but she's like pushing. I remember the semi-final. She's like,
she almost got disqualified. You know, she survived because the Jamaican girl was qualified. Otherwise, she was going to be disqualified. Yeah,
exactly. You know, she pushed her away in the final. That last 100 meters, it was crazy. So you know, I'm a big fan of her. I think Ugandan athletics, you guys have done really well. of course, you know, in the last few years, you've like in every competition you're always representing, and I think ultimately there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from you guys as well as we try to develop our own sport. You know, so I appreciate your time and your resources and your knowledge. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
You're welcome. We shall keep in touch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Okay, bye. Bye-bye. Bye.